Yo, what's up, gamers? Aaron Shack here, and we are live on Shackcast number 56 this evening. We have a lot of things to talk about in terms of pop culture stuff, new releases, video game news. Stuff is all over the place this week, but I wanted to kind of wait for everything to settle and to cover everything that we're talking about here. So, we are going to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine today. We are going to talk about Batman Caped Crusader and some other stuff. My thoughts on those will be included in this episode and a lot of other gaming news. But before we get into the stuff about Marvel and DC, let's dip into something that's kind of exploded a little bit over the weekend. And this is a tweet coming from Phantom Blade Zero. They're actually clearing up a little bit of a controversy here that happened over the weekend. So let me just read you them sort of settling the controversy and calming everybody down, clearing things up. So this is from Phantom Blade Zero's account. If you're not familiar, it's an upcoming game coming to the PlayStation console. It says, recently we noticed that some media outlets have claimed to have interviewed an unnamed developer from S-Game at ChinaJoy, who seems to have made some statements regarding the release platforms and strategy for Phantom Blade Zero. We want to clarify that these claim statements do not represent S-Game's values or culture, as we believe in making our game accessible to everyone and have not ruled out any platforms for Phantom Blade Zero. We are hard at work on both the development and publishing fronts to ensure that as many players as possible can enjoy our game at release and in the future. Our team is looking forward to sharing more development updates soon, and we are excited to bring our world premiere demo to Gamescom this month. So that's that. But I have an article here from Insider Gaming, and don't be mad at Insider Gaming, because all they're doing here, their original report here, is reporting someone else's report, okay? I'm just using Insider Gaming as a way to cite the original source here that stirred up the entire controversy. So, a recent report published by a Brazilian outlet attending ChinaJoy 2024, it was claimed that a Phantom Blade Zero developer had some harsh words for the Xbox ecosystem. It was explained by the developers of both Black Myth Wukong and Phantom Blade Zero that they don't have exclusivity agreements in place with Sony. They just don't see the need to bring their games to Xbox. And per the post on the Brazilian outlet, when an S-Game developer was questioned on the platform distribution for Phantom Blade Zero at ChinaJoy 2024, part of their response was scalding. Nobody needs this platform. So, I mean, I think you can see why the developer on Twitter actually came forward and said, hey, we didn't, this is not our culture. That's not something crazy that we would say. Apparently you've interviewed someone claiming to be an S-Game developer. Now, I'm sure people can go out on a limb and say, okay, well, maybe they're lying, maybe they're covering this up. There's no evidence of that either. I mean, it's just a reach to jump to that. But yeah, anonymous developer was talking about Xbox, and of course here it goes into it a little bit. Which Black Myth Wukong is kind of interesting. There hasn't been any statements there. It's coming out on August 20th for PlayStation 5 and PC, and it has been confirmed that it is coming to Xbox, but there's some sort of delay to the release due to optimization or something like that. So we don't really know fully what the issue is. So I don't know. A little crazy for sure. But yeah, definitely know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. It's very strange, and I would just try to keep from being super outraged about it. I think it's a controversy that's largely been settled, and everything's fine. The next thing settles something about one of my favorite rock bands of all time. Aerosmith has announced retirement from touring, saying that Steven Tyler, the lead singer, his recovery from his vocal injury is not possible. That's what this article from Variety is saying, and of course the band has come out and spoken on it. But yeah, I want to pull it up here. Aerosmith, really great rock band. Okay, I hit the wrong button. Sorry about that. All right. Yeah, Aerosmith, one of the biggest rock bands of all time. Quintessential bands from the '70s that have, sort of maintained relevancy throughout time and have made, some of the most iconic songs in rock music. Yeah, so it appears that they have already played some of their final gigs. The band announced Friday that they have canceled all remaining concert dates and are retired from touring because Steven Tyler's recovery from his vocal injury is not possible. They've also stated, "It has been the honor of our lives to have our music become part of yours." The group declared in a social media post that reads like a farewell statement. So yeah, their Peace Out farewell tour has brought in their touring and their careers, I suppose, to a halt. Let's see. They did have a residency at Dolby Live at Park MGM in Las Vegas. They had a hometown show at Boston's Fenway Park last year to celebrate their 50th anniversary. The statement doesn't mention whether there's still hope for Tyler to conquer his problems to a point that would allow for future recordings. It seems like they've long retired from record making. Their last album, Music from Another Dimension, came out in 2022. Steven Tyler, subsequently released a lone solo album in 2016. But yeah, 1970 is when that spark of inspiration became Aerosmith, and that's pretty cool. It's been a great honor. They've performed like no other rock band. Steven Tyler and his voice, his presence, his the scarf on the mic stand, like everything about this guy is iconic through rock history. So as a guitarist, as a musician, someone who likes blues, jazz, classic rock, all of this stuff that I grew up on because of my parents and because of family and stuff like that, I grew up listening to this type of music on the radio and stuff. And so it's just incredible, and it's also sad to sort of see it come to an end like this. But I mean, there's no telling. There's all sorts of stuff happening with vocal surgeries and injuries and stuff like that. But it says, yeah, the damage to his vocal cords and fractures to his larynx is looking like that's gonna really be something difficult. It's something that I would encourage you to look into would be John Bon Jovi's story. It was in AARP magazine recently, but I'm sure you can find it anywhere, is that John Bon Jovi also had vocal injuries and stuff like that, and he was afraid that he was going to lose his voice, permanently, and that, his job, his tour, his band, his whole life, revolves around music. And he was able to overcome those with surgery and various forms of vocal therapy. So I would advise, if you're interested in this issue, if you want to know more, potentially look up John Bon Jovi's vocal injuries and dig into that there. The next thing I want to talk about is Glen Powell, the star of the Twisters movie that is in theaters. I just wanted to say that this is my thoughts. I posted this on Twitter. He gets what movies are about, and he's in Twisters, the perfect summer blockbuster. So what did he say about the movie theater experience? He's like 36 years old or so he's technically, a millennial, getting towards the elder side. A lot of millennials are in their 40s now. He said, "When I was a kid during the summer, I begged my parents to stay in the movie theater all day. Not because it had the best air conditioning in Texas, which is usually true, but because summer movies were designed to give you your money's worth. And I always got to share that cinematic experience with a theater full of people who were on the same ride with me and left with the same rush. So seeing the universal response to Twisters has really been a dream come true. Whether I have the privilege to be on screen or I have the joy of seeing in the theater, nothing makes me happier than the movies." That's pretty cool. So just wanted to share that with you. I know the movie theaters are kind of on the outs a little bit. Some people are saying, ticket prices are up. Not just that, but the stuff that comes with going to a movie, like getting drinks, popcorn. If you're at one of those sit-down theaters where they serve a meal and alcohol and all sorts of stuff, the expenses start to rise up pretty quick. So, I mean, you really start looking for movies like, perhaps Twisters, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Deadpool and Wolverine, big movie events, and that people are just not going to the movie theaters and spending like they used to. We're not just going to see any old movie at any time. Movies went from being, I mean, I remember when I was younger, like our local 6 movie theater thing was like $4 a ticket, and gradually it went up and up and up. But I mean, the point where a single ticket is like $10 to $15, $20 is like really rough. And if you're taking wife, girlfriend, family, kids, whatever it may be, those expenses add up very quickly. So it's kind of nice when we can sort of go back and point out, like, hey, there's still these movies, there's still these big summer blockbusters that you're going to enjoy if you get out there and head to the movies. There's still some stuff like Twisters that's worth tapping into. Next, I want to show you guys something. My tweet was that, hey, I enjoy this. I feel this deep in my soul about what's going on with the gaming industry. This is from a guy, his name is 8-Bit Closed Fist, and I believe he's largely on TikTok. But I wanted to have us sort of listen to this video because he really talks about like hate reviews and negativity in gaming culture, and this is something that I feel very strongly on the gaming channel. So I just wanted to have us play this audio and listen and sort of react to it. So I'm going to let the whole thing play before I really chime in.
YouTube ruined gamers. G-Man had to remove his Star Wars Outlaw review because it was too positive. This is the world y'all want to see. After years of Angry Joe reviews, there was a large amount of gamers who believe that the only way you're being genuine about a game is if you're being negative. I'm going to let you in on a secret. Me and every single content creator you've seen on this app knows for a fact that it is much easier to get engagement being negative than it is for being positive. Bashing a game is a layup, whereas saying something positive is a much harder shot. It opens you up for much more negative comment. It opens you up to seem less genuine. Why is that? I don't only blame the YouTubers who in the early days of the algorithm figured out that if they come up with something rage-inducing, you all will engage with it much more. It's not just the listener's fault for believing that anger and rage is somehow more passionate and genuine than calm positivity. It's all of it. I can promise you this. If you run across an account that is mostly rage and anger and negativity and another account that is mostly positivity, the positive one is probably more genuine. Unfortunately, most gamers nowadays have succumbed to nothing but groupthink, mob mentality, sheep-like behavior. If anything goes against the grain of the majority, it is tossed out and disregarded. Any criticisms of a game that's supposed to be loved gets tossed out, and any love for a game that's supposed to be hated gets tossed out. All that does is make developers say, you don't know what you're talking about. And can you disagree when y'all are willing to disregard an opinion of someone who played a game and liked it, even though you haven't even touched it? But that's just me though. Make sure you tap in for more video game discussions.
He's great. I like this video quite a bit. I think he's got a solid take on this. I know the specific video that the creator he's talking about made is actually about Star Wars Outlaws, and it's, I guess, someone with a positive review on it, and he sort of hinted at this. If you're praising something like Elden Ring, or you're praising something like Suicide Squad, but it's meant to be hated, and it feels like everyone in the gaming world is hating on that one thing, I think sometimes the angry and hateful reviews come across as more passionate, like he said, and that the people like me who are a little more calm and rational, even when I dislike a game, I can still tell you whether that game is going to be for you or not. Which I might actually...
YouTube ruined gamers.
Sorry. Oh my God, I played it again. Let me see. But yeah, I think he's got a really solid idea on that one. And let me see if I can find, it might be easy to browse through the media clips here. Shouldn't be super far back. But yeah, I think a lot of people just sort of ride the negativity and the low scores, and if this game has a Metacritic score of this or that, or something has a Rotten Tomatoes score of this or that, then they start comparing one score to another, and that's one of the big reasons why I don't do scores on the channel. I just simply post if I recommend a game or if I don't recommend a game, and I provide you with enough information and context to understand whether perhaps you might like the game, even if I don't. I understand that my experience is anecdotal. It's only my subjective experience. My experience is not an objective experience. It's not possible for there to be a single objective experience of those types of things. But yeah, I wanted to see if I could quickly find, I keep posting this video, which I think would really tie this together and really talk about how I feel about both movie and game reviews and pretty much anything in pop culture nowadays. I'm getting pretty close to it somewhere here, but I just need to keep it like hotkeyed or something because it's a video that I just keep referencing here on the channel and of course on the podcast. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of a second here as I dig through some stuff. I know it wasn't this far back, but yeah, it looks like it's just getting lost in all the tweets that I'm doing. But hey, how's everyone doing today? Shackcast episode 56 tonight. We've been talking a little bit about video games and video game reviews and some of the latest news and a little bit of controversies, which I'm sure we'll probably dig a little deeper into. We have a few more things to talk about later in the show regarding gaming, and of course I want to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine as well as Batman Caped Crusader. Sheesh. I really thought I had this queued up somewhere. Let me try one more spot because I keep all these type of things in a couple different channels here and there. Might have put it in the movie channel. No. Okay, let me try one more thing. Media? Can we get lucky here and find it? No. Oh, it's from All the Right Movies. Okay. I'm on the right chase here. Hey, I appreciate that. Yeah, so we're doing a little bit of a impromptu thing here. I'm trying to find that exact post, but some of these channels post so many things. But it was a really relevant conversation on what is a good review and what even a bad review can tell you. Yeah, I just need to like save this in a folder or something. Save this video so I can pull it up quickly. Jeez. No. Shouldn't be a hard video to find. Dang it, it's
Our next movie.
Nope. want to play anything crazy here. Yeah, it's not. Dang it. It's really upsetting that I can't find this clip. I usually have everything pulled up, but this is kind of impromptu. I'm going to give it just another minute of searching. Let's see. Yeah, it's becoming really hard to find this. I don't know why. Like this post just disappeared from the earth. I can't find it. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I summed it up as best I could. I mean, without the full context, but I really wanted to have the video here to fully, and I'm probably going to find it as soon as we wrap this video. Where is Ebert? Is this it?
There has to be some reporting in every review.
Yep, here it is. Here it is. Oh my God, I finally found it. Okay. Courtesy of All the Right Movies, this talks about a little bit of what a review, a good review and a bad review should contain. So even if myself or someone else is saying like, hey, this game or this movie is not good, we should be able to give you enough data, enough, and answer questions or whatever it may be, give you enough information that maybe even if I don't like it and you're reading my review and you're like, wow, it sounds like it sucks based on his opinion, but as I read here, it actually seems like something that might resonate with me. That's what I want to do. I don't want to be the person that is the one true God, you know, the YouTuber that you go to get the one true thoughts and to shape your thoughts and opinions on. You know, I want you to take the information and do what you will with it, potentially look into what other people think, and then make your own decision. So here we go. This is Roger Ebert,
there has to be some
film critic.
in every review. I mean, first of all, you have to play fair with your reader. Here's what I think a movie review should do. The first thing it should do, it should give some notion to the reader of what the movie is about and what it is like. If you play fair with your reader, you can give a movie a bad review and they'll still be able to read that review and know that they would like to go see that movie. You shouldn't just, you know, blast it in such a way that the reader would think no reasonable person would ever want to go to this film. You have to give the movie its day in court too. There has to be something in there that conveys what the experience is like. Then, secondly, there should be a first-person tone. Now, one thing that people forget is that of the average readers of a newspaper, probably less than 1 or 2% will ever go to see any of the movies that you review. And this could go on with books, concerts, theater, and so forth. So the second thing you have to do is make it entertaining to read for somebody who is only going to read it. You know, like every Sunday I read all the book review sections, but I don't read all the books. I want to know a little bit about what's going on so that the piece has to be entertaining. Anybody who has 50 cents to buy the paper should be able to open up to the movie review, read 1,000 words, and enjoy themselves, whether or not they're going to go to the movie.
Boom. Okay, so Ebert and Roper were legendary critics in their time, and of course, Ebert still being alive and still doing reviews. But I think he has a really strong point there, is that, you know, some people might just look at reviews and never play the games, and they just want to know, like, is this good or not? Not everyone is going to a review with the intention of, hey, I'm going to make a purchase or what have you. But yeah, let me actually copy pasta that into a folder. I don't want to lose that because I feel like I'm referring to this video a lot lately. And I thought I had it on hand somewhere, and I really struggled to find it today, but I'm glad we got to listen to that. The fact that, you know, some people just might read the review and that might be it. That might be all the experience of it. And so your review needs to be both informative and entertaining enough. And of course, include your opinion, but I think you need to include enough of the facts that you can go on from there. Appreciate that. I'm trying to dress up a little more for the podcast, keep things looking nice and classy, and, make sure we're taking things really seriously. I don't think this even factors in. We have a question here in the comments. What if someone, I'm going to try to suss this out. What if someone never went to the movie and lies to everyone that he or she went to the movie but never went to the movie? I guess what you're saying is, like, if someone were to make, like, a fraudulent review, or, and, like, say I went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine when I didn't, and then talk poorly about it. I mean, then you would just lose all credibility and no one would trust you. But I think there might be like a double-edged sword to that, because with the Star Wars Outlaws thing that he was talking about in context was that people are talking about a video game that either only select reviewers have been allowed to play ahead of time, and there's also a lot of reviewers that have not been allowed to play the game, like, at all. Like, there's a lot of us, including me. I haven't been able to play Star Wars Outlaws yet. I might not be big enough for that type of opportunity. But yeah, for people like me or smaller, or just people that were not invited to those opportunities to speak crazy things about a game they've never played or a movie they've never seen that's not in theaters yet, sure, it's okay to have, like, kind of a first glance, first impressions type opinion of just, like, seeing a trailer and being like, okay, that looks like it sucks. But I mean, you really don't know until you're playing the game and it's physically in your hands. And I've noticed this about a lot of games, whether it's Suicide Squad, Gotham Knights, you name it. Like, I kind of knew watching the videos, I was like, it looks fun, and it also looks like kind of not fun. There's certain aspects that don't look right, but maybe it's just like the person I'm watching is inexperienced, or this is like a setup type of game capture where it's like everything is meant to be ideal, like the Division E3 trailer so many years ago, right? So, I mean, there's that. But yeah, if you haven't seen a movie, or if the movie's not out, or if it's like a video game, it's kind of the same thing, and you haven't been given said opportunity to play the game and then talk about the game, and you're not obeying your embargoes, you're potentially breaking embargoes by showing footage or talking about stuff early when you're not supposed to have set loose those reviews until a certain date. That's why we see a lot of movie and game reviews all come out at the same time. That's usually when the embargo breaks. Yeah, I mean, if someone's like saying crazy things about the new Superman movie that's not even out yet, like, we don't know anything. Like, I mean, you can look at pictures and stills of the production, or you could look at the suit and say that sucks, or you could say, okay, I've never liked any of James Gunn's movies, I guess. I mean, but like, trying to review the movie right now when there's not even a trailer, there's not even like pre-release footage of said movie being out there, that's just crazy. Like, it's just, there's no sense in that type of stuff. I wouldn't sweat it. I wouldn't sweat it at all. I wouldn't worry about it. Moving on, I have a few other things that we want to talk about today. Okay, so the next thing, I actually posted this in the description down below. I'm not going to play audio from this, but I did post the opening credits to Batman the Caped Crusader. I'm going to make a video on this later, sort of analyzing the music, because I am a musician, and I wanted to sort of make a video talking about it. It's a very different type of Batman theme. But I did say that I think the way they did the opening credits with the black and white noir vibes, it's definitely noir type of music from the detective films of the 1940s. It's set in sort of a fictional 1940s setting. So they're definitely going for that, leaning more on Batman's detective vibes rather than, the sort of wacky, gadgets and silly supervillains, although they're been some very interesting episodes. I'd like to give my overall thoughts here, so spoiler alert, I'm going to try not to trample too much into spoilers, but I do want to talk about Batman Caped Crusader, and then I want to also talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. But yeah, when it comes to Batman Caped Crusader, I think some of the big concerns that I had on the way in were some of the changes that they were going to make. And I don't know if the changes, they might be good, they might be bad. The first one that was kind of blatant was the Oswalda Cobblepot, which is sort of a gender swap of Penguin, which is kind of lazy writing and poor narrative type stuff. We saw it recently with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Instead of introducing Captain Cold or Killer Frost as like a playable character of the Suicide Squad, they instead created their own alternate universe, Mrs. Freeze, that's, the wife of Nora Freeze. So in this alternate universe, there's Mrs. Freeze and her wife Nora, and it's pretty much mostly the same story as Mr. Freeze's. It can just be kind of a lazy way to come in, just like gender swap iconic characters, and we're starting to see it more often where characters are either being like gender swapped or race swapped from what the original iconic character was. What I will say about Oswalda Cobblepot is that actually I think Minnie Driver's performance was pretty good. I think, although I don't necessarily like the idea of the gender swap, I think the performance was good and the character looks fine. And, in that one episode, we didn't really get a whole lot of context or a whole lot going on there. But, I mean, we got enough that I can say it's interesting, I guess. And then, of course, we're seeing with Harley Quinn, something's a little different, is that she is now an Asian character, which is different. And not necessarily a good or a bad thing, just kind of different. And we're seeing that there's sort of like the quirky version of her is really the doctor, the psychiatrist. And then sort of the dark and sadistic version is when she's actually in the like jester costume, which is a little more dramatic, and the color swaps are different on that suit, and it's a little more traditional medieval type of vibe. It's not the black and red. It's not similar at all to the original animated series of Batman's design. It's definitely different. I think that episode was an interesting one. Plotline was kind of all over the place. It never really got the idea of whether she herself is like insane or suffering from some sort of mental issue. But she was essentially kidnapping her patients and treating them when she believed, I guess, that they couldn't be helped by traditional talk therapy. So that was interesting. It once again doesn't necessarily make the show any better or worse. It just seems like weird, unnecessary changes might have taken place there. And I know I feel like I'm kind of like not taking a hard line by saying this sucks or I loved it, but it really just kind of leaves me in like a it's neither here nor there type of feeling. But the rest of the show, I think the art style, the animation, the noir vibes, some of the 3D scenes that you sort of get when they're driving these old-timey 1940s cars are really interesting. I'll show it on screen as the credits here are sort of looping. But yeah, even Batman's car has this like 1940s roadster type vibe to it. Everyone's got the pencil thin mustaches and stuff. It's definitely got the vibes, and I think Hamish Linklater, who you might know as the priest from Midnight Mass, did a really good job voicing Bruce Wayne. And when he switched to the Batman voice, like, to me it felt like Kevin Conroy. And I love the way the Batmobile looks. It's kind of an homage to the original in the 90s animated series, but it has that like 40s like supercar type of vibe, or what it would have been in the 1940s. You know, what kind of car would he have been able to make and have access to that could sort of become the Batmobile? But yeah, I think the casting has been really good. I think the other thing to note is that Commissioner Gordon and Barbara Gordon were also sort of race swapped to be African American. I don't think it necessarily affects anything. It's just different from how the characters were established, what they've traditionally been across all media. It's neither here nor there. It doesn't make their performance any less or worse. But I felt like Commissioner Gordon really didn't get much of a presence in the show. I mean, he definitely had lines throughout the series where he had chances to speak or whatever. But I think most of the time he was like saying that, you know, my job's on the line, on whether or not this case is solved. And largely it feels like the main characters of the series were Renee Montoya, who is a cop, a detective, or, you know, Harley Quinn was also a very big focus. And then, of course, you know, Batman and Bruce Wayne were back and forth. And then Harvey Dent, you know, and of course, leading into the Two-Face moment there. It felt like the main characters were mostly revolved around Montoya and Harley Quinn and Barbara Gordon. Like, it felt like they had the most screen time. And, you know, we didn't really get any moments with Commissioner Gordon that felt like strong like the original series. He didn't feel like he was a key part of the plot. He was mostly just there in the background as things were happening. He didn't really get any interesting moments with Batman. So, I don't know. It's interesting. It's going to be really cool to see how the story develops. But yeah, so far it's just been Batman. Yeah, great question. But yeah, Barbara Gordon is in the show. It's just that no one is sort of cooperating with Batman. Of course, since it's the 1940s, it's like it's Batman and it's Alfred, and like the Batcave looks kind of slim. Like it's really just the car and the map. If you remember the map from the 1966 Batman TV show, you know, where they had that like glass chalkboard map of Gotham. That's actually in the show, and then there's like some weird gadgets and stuff in the background. So it's like he doesn't really have all his tech. And another thing that you'll notice about his suit is it's a huge throwback to like the OG, like original issues of Batman. He doesn't have the purple gloves, but they're black, and so it's not really, he doesn't have the gauntlets with the spikes on him. So he hasn't really evolved to that point yet. And I think it's kind of another way of how the show is focusing, not necessarily on like a year one or a year two type of thing here. You know, he already feels confident about himself and knows what he's doing, but he's still largely considered a vigilante, and the police are obviously after him throughout most of the series, which I think is the best way of interpreting Batman. Batman does start to get a little boring when the cops consider him too much of an ally. I think it's always nice to have that tension of he might go further than the cops will, and that he is also hunted by the cops, and he has to sort of maintain the persona of being in the shadows and solving crimes outside the law, but simultaneously arresting subjects to later be picked up by the police. So yeah, seeing the gloves is interesting, and of course the ears are a little more anatomically correct for a bat, but I actually hate the ears on the cowl. Like they're really like far apart and towards the back, but like I said, it kind of looks more like a real bat, and it looks more like how the original comics depicted him. And of course the bat symbol is just like a tiny little black bat. It just seems, the word I reach for is lazy, but I just wish they went for a more iconic bat symbol on the chest. Doesn't matter what it is, I could probably be happy. But it's kind of that one of where the animated series switched art styles after a while, and then it gradually got worse and worse, and it was lazier and lazier with the color palette. I don't remember what season that happened. It's been a while since my rewatch of the animated series. But I highly recommend the show. I think it's really great. If you have Amazon Prime, you can check out all 10 episodes of Batman Caped Crusader. It just dropped on August the 1st, and all the episodes are available. And I just think the cast did a really good job. And you're going to hear some familiar voices, and it's produced by Matt Reeves and J.J. Abrams. So some serious firepower behind this show, and I'm already super excited. I hope a season 2 is in the works. I would assume so, but I would really love to see more. 10 episodes, proof of concept. I think it's great. I would love to see maybe more episodes in a future season, maybe 13 or 20, because animated series with, 25, 30 minutes or so worth of content, 10 just seems really short. But it didn't overstay its welcome. It didn't feel like there were any filler or unnecessary episodes. I think each episode kind of had that villain of the week type vibe. And I think the only thing that I wish they had done differently is I don't like the binge model. I think dropping an episode a week and then forcing us to have those water cooler moments of like, oh, wow, we can talk about this episode this week and theorize about what we might think will happen next week. Like that builds up so much more momentum, because people are just going to put their full reviews out for the show or talk about the last episode immediately. Whereas, with a weekly drop, it's like we can talk about it for a month or 2 months, depending on how many episodes you have. It stretches out the conversation about your show online. So interesting stuff. Highly recommend it. When it comes to Deadpool and Wolverine, if you don't want any spoilers, I invite you to plug your ears or circle back when I'm through with this segment, or come back when you have seen the show and you're not worried about it. But I have to say, Deadpool and Wolverine has done, I'm going to try to be light on the spoilers, but we might get into some just because it's impossible to talk about. I appreciate that. It's impossible to talk about without letting something slip, it feels. Because the show has a lot of cameos. It's a great movie. I can just say go watch it. It's literally one of those movies that it's worth being in theaters and seeing these cinematic moments and freaking out with everybody else in the theater and laughing and having a good time. And that's what it is. Marvel is back. It doesn't mean that other Marvel movies are going to all of a sudden be great, but I do think that, having Ryan Reynolds and the team that has been making these Deadpool movies at the helm here and allowing them to essentially flex their creativity and not blocking them the way Zack Snyder and other creators in the industry have been blocked when they're making movies by big studios and their opinions and writers and their agendas. Just focus on telling a great and iconic comic book story. And this movie is packed full of cameos. And the thing is, my usual nitpick lately with Marvel has been that they've been overusing the cameos and simply using characters to set up the next movie. And this is a movie that's just really good. It's self-contained. Sure, could there be more Deadpools? Could he become a character in the MCU? Absolutely. Any of these things could happen. But it didn't feel like it was here to set something else up. It was here to pay homage to the Fox universe of the Marvel superheroes that they interpreted over the past, 20-something years or more. So I have a little image here on screen that I'll share of some of the iconic heroes there. But Channing Tatum finally getting his moment as Gambit, Jennifer Garner returning as Elektra, Daphne Keane returning as X-23, and of course Wesley Snipes returning as Blade, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, just absolutely killed it as this alternate universe Wolverine, and of course Ryan Reynolds, completely proving that he is the best person to play Deadpool and to helm that franchise. It's just a movie that's not burdened by the creativity of boardrooms and agendas, which has allowed Marvel and Disney and even Star Wars to sort of sculpt stories based around certain agendas. There wasn't some big agenda behind this movie. It was like, hey, these are your favorite characters. We're going to finally put Wolverine in the red and blue and sleeveless, have him on screen, stabbing people. You know, we're gonna not dishonor the movie Logan by doing this. We're going to have one of the best intros to a Deadpool or just any movie in a while. I think that was an incredible introduction. I think Channing Tatum, ironically, like I was like, how is he going to sound with the Cajun accent? But I think he did it. I think he killed it, and it's kind of ironically funny how it just all plays out, and you get to see all these other iconic heroes. Chris Evans knocks it out of the park. And, of course, a lot of other sort of cameos from characters that showed up in the Marvel movies of the early 2000s kind of get their swan song in this movie as, you know, Deadpool sort of reunites the less popular and the forgotten heroes of the past 20 years that, you know, were kind of stuck in Foxland while Marvel was building up their universe elsewhere. So it's really cool. It pays a really good tribute, and it's got really solid action scenes, good dialogue, a strong narrative. Like, it's everything you want in a comic book movie. It's a big, loud, explosive summer movie with a great soundtrack that's, you know, it's got those hilarious moments. It's got that Deadpool humor that you can appreciate. And I just think the characters were really well honored, and it makes me excited. We got to see Wolverine in the cowl, and I think we really enjoyed just seeing all these things come true. It's a comic book fan's dream come true. So, I mean, does it fix Marvel movies going forward? It's made over like before I even did this episode, it's like over 800 million in sales, and that's just domestic. That's not even the worldwide sales yet. So it's likely to get higher than that, 800 million. So does this mean that Marvel is going to look at this and go, oh, maybe we shouldn't be worried about like pushing feminist agendas in She-Hulk, or, you know, trying to push like weird propaganda in the Marvels or any of these other shows that we've talked about, where it's like, just focus on like finding a comic book adaptation of Hero X and making that come to life on screen? It doesn't mean you have to copy paste everything from the comics, but everything in popular media is influenced by something. You know, you take a book like Lord of the Rings and then you make a movie out of it. But if you start putting our world's politics and social agendas into the movie, you kind of start to mess things up. And that's the point where it's like, Twisters just needed to be a big action movie about people chasing tornadoes, and, you know, tell some sort of a romantic story with it, and just have a killer soundtrack. Like, that's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be like a climate change or a propaganda or a female strong hero, you know, she don't need no man movie. Even though it has elements of that, it doesn't preach to it and smack you in the face with it, or demean the viewer by saying you have to like this or you're a bigot, you know? So it needs to be based on pure good content, good narrative, strong dialogue. You have the most iconic characters in the world. Anyone recognizes any of these comic book characters. The Superman shield, the Batman logo. I mean, people recognize Deadpool or Wolverine just based on one thing, the claws, or just the mask, or whatever it could be, or the X from the X-Men. It could be so many things allow people to instantly go, oh, that's Spider-Man. Like, these are so well known, and they're so awesome, and it's so simple to just do something right with these characters. It just blows my mind that it has become so difficult for people to figure it out, but everyone's wanted to sort of come in here and inject buff up their own careers or talk about how they're some sort of great writer and finally I can do what I want with Marvel. It's like, no, if you're working for Marvel or DC or something, you need to understand that this is a privilege and not something for you to like boost your resume and try to rewrite this iconic universe to suit your social agendas or your sexual preferences. Anyway, last couple of things I want to talk about on the show today. That's it for any sort of spoilers on Batman Caped Crusader or Deadpool and Wolverine, which I enjoyed both incredibly well. I want to talk about Game Informer. Game Informer magazine has been in circulation for over 33 years. Game Informer magazine was closed. The website has now been completely deleted from existence, and staff has been laid off. Game Informer has, of course, been owned by GameStop for quite some time. I'm trying to I can't even pull up their Twitter account at this point. Even the post that I retweeted when it died is completely gone. Like, that account just does not exist. So my sort of initial thoughts at the time, it's truly the end of an era. Both before and during the era of the internet, Game Informer was a trusted source before outrage farming and controversy became the way to make a buck for mainstream gaming media. I sold many subscriptions working for GameStop back in the early 2000s, and some of the best issues still grace my bookshelf. Hopefully we can honor Game Informer with proper reviews that refer games to the right people rather than simply praise or bash them with our so-called definitive subjective experiences. A good review, or even a bad one, should let someone know if they would enjoy the product, even if you didn't. And once again, that's me sort of chiming into what Roger Ebert said about reviews, and whether a review is good or bad, it can still be informative, it can still be useful. But yeah, this is still up here from Jeff Keighley, where he said Game Informer magazine will cease publication. Staff have been laid off by GameStop, and I don't think there's anything else. I think, there's Andrew Alliance, our boy, commenting down there. Cool. But yeah, it's really sad to see Game Informer go, because I think so many of us had either by going to GameStop and getting a subscription, getting the power-up rewards card from GameStop, which got you like the 10% off gaming or whatever. I think with print sort of declining, where people don't really go to the bookstore to buy magazines, people don't really go to the checkout and buy a magazine. People don't get their primary news from magazines unless they sign up for that subscription at GameStop. So I think GameStop had a lot to do with keeping the magazines like sales and stuff going forward. And I think Hugh has a really good question here. He says, do you think anything will replace it, or the day of the magazine is over? That's really hard to say, because I think everything lately is all about Twitter. It's all about, going to the gaming websites themselves and looking at the information there. But they literally just nuked the Game Informer website altogether. Like, it's just gone. Years and years of history, online backups of some of their articles are gone. And if you don't have the print magazines, there's really no, with even the Game Informer Twitter account being deleted from existence after the developers tried to, after the employees tried to do one farewell post. They tried to do an extra farewell post because the one by GameStop was actually made by AI. But yeah, the actual employees tried to do one more farewell post. They logged into the account, and then the account was quickly deleted and just completely destroyed. So, insane. And the thing is that Game Informer was always considered, even if you disagreed with their scores or whatever, you at least considered that they were credible. They feel like the last bastion of gaming media before it got corrupted by, how IGN gives Deadpool a 4 out of 10, or Kotaku or any of these other sites. It's all about outrage. It's all about trying to get you onto that website to argue for or against your favorite game, or to whine about the reviewer and their poor critique, or to go there and defend your favorite game and how it's the best game of the year. All that engagement gets them ad revenue. So, I mean, that's what all of this is at the end of the day. And YouTubers are the same way. But the difference is, the distinction is that I myself, I can't speak for all YouTubers, but I myself do not go for the outrage stuff. I don't go for the hate reviews. If I don't like something, I'll tell you, but I'll figure out a way to refer that to the proper audience and make sure that, hey, if this is a game for you, but it's not for me, I'll make sure that you know that. And I'll be honest with you. And I think that's what people look for. They want authenticity, they want honesty, and they want it to feel, I mean, I've always sort of tried to create the atmosphere like I'm just your employee at the game store. And you ask me a question about a game, and I just try to tell you, not just my opinion, but try to tell you the facts and let you form your own opinion and not let me be the God or the be-all, end-all of all things. Will they become collector's items? Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible. You never know with the industry. I think a lot of older games, even the 2013 Deadpool video game, has become a bit of a collector's item. It's going for like $400 online. Some people are selling it as high as $1,000 or $2,000 for a copy of that game. And because it's been delisted from both the Xbox and PlayStation, any other online stores, there's no digital version of that Deadpool game. But with the resurgence of the movie, it has a lot of people wanting to buy that game. And so people on eBay and other sites are hiking up the prices, and copies are just not available anywhere. So it could happen with the magazine. I definitely have a couple copies on the bookshelf here. I'm going to do maybe a live stream later this week. I think I'm going to do it on my phone, actually, so we can just kind of like walk around the room, and I can do a bit of a tour. We can look at my comic book collection. We can look at some games and stuff that I have here on the shelf, and things that I want to do on the channel, and just kind of, give people that behind-the-scenes glimpse that they might enjoy. So, I mean, yeah, there's total plausibility that this could... Those, certain copies, high-value ones, maybe where Spider-Man or Superman or Batman was on the cover, or, that time Uncharted was on the cover, but they didn't, they had, like, the version 1.0 of Elena. It wasn't the final version of Elena. Or even the Alpha Protocol issue that looked like Adam Sandler was on the cover. Like, it was a weird bit of art there. Yeah, definitely tune in for that, because I think it will be really interesting, but sad stuff from them. We also got news here from Bungie, and this is huge because if you know me, I'm a Destiny fan through and through. I've covered Destiny longer than I've been a content creator, longer than this channel has been around, longer than my Twitch channel has been around, because I started on Twitch like 2015. Destiny originally came out in about 2014 or so. I was playing the alpha back in the day. But yeah, we can check out some of their statement here. But Bungie has eliminated 220 roles at Bungie, and I never really got like full clarification on this as to whether the two key parts of Bungie's team, which was Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy, who were key to all sorts of expansions, all sorts of reveals over the years. These two have been key players in Destiny for a long time. They were also a part of these layoffs. It's unclear whether they negotiated to go somewhere else or if they were just let go like everyone else. I think news on that is just going to sort of, go left and right as we move on, because I think they said that there was a certain amount of these roles that would be absorbed by SIE, which is Sony Interactive Entertainment. They're integrating 155 of those roles, so that's 12%. So some people are essentially being moved from the Bungie team to Sony Entertainment, Interactive Entertainment. So it might sort of soften the blow that they're not just throwing 220 people out on the street, but it's still going to hurt, especially when the CEO, Pete Parsons, as per some tweets here, I don't know if I can find, let me play around, see if I can find some of those tweets, but apparently he was inviting some of the employees to come to a, like a get-together at his house, and admire all of his sports cars and stuff that he's bought with all the money he's made, while some of the other employees here have struggled to make enough money for groceries. So Leanna Rupert, I'm sorry if I don't pronounce it correctly, but yeah, also formerly at Bungie, formerly wrote for Game Informer, Prima Games, a bunch of other places here. But yeah, her and another community manager were in the lobby talking about how they didn't have enough money for groceries, and that employee services was an angel for helping me have food, since I was told to drop all my side jobs when Chu got laid off. And Pete walked up and bragged about his expensive cars. So there's a whole story here about that. And very unusual how they were immediately let go in the layoffs. It talks a little bit about how QA has been treated. I think she probably has a thread going through all that. Definitely worth looking into. You can find that on her Twitter if you want to dig into that a little more. But yeah, layoffs are painful. They already let go of a lot of people before the final shape, and I think some of that might have been, I talked with Andrew about this a little bit. We've had some open discussions about this, that maybe they did have a little too many people on, and people with ideas that were counterintuitive to what Destiny is, because Lightfall had some interesting things, but for the most part it didn't feel like Destiny. And when the final shape came out, it felt like Marvel's Endgame, but for Destiny. And it felt like that team, trimming the fat and figuring out the people that are key to making the best Destiny experience possible, and then also delaying the final shape by several months to make sure that this was the best thing possible, and, potentially made them the most amount of money. And they are saying here that, especially following the success of the final shape, like, it's kind of crazy that these, so-called economic realities here and exhausting other mitigation options has led them to just laying people off. And it's also been stated that they have potentially, when they were negotiating Sony to buy Bungie, was that they were saying, like, hey, we could help you with this, and this, and, we're making this from, Destiny 2, and, we've started work on Marathon, and that's looking cool, and, that's going to be another live service thing. And then, of course, them working on something that they had under the codename of Payday, which was, or Payback, codename Payback. It was going to be like some sort of like hero shooter, gotcha. I've heard different things. Some people have said it was going to be a gotcha game, but the most prominent one I heard was that it was going to be like a hero shooter in the Destiny universe, where you'd play as like Ikora, Zavala, or Cade, or whatever, and it would be like a third-person shooter taking place in the Destiny universe. And so rather than working on a Destiny 3, they were kind of trying to figure out, like, how can we cash cow the series, and obviously making an Overwatch-style game in the Destiny universe would, I guess they figured that would just make them infinite money, as well as, putting out Marathon and stuff. And so because of these layoffs, they've stated what they're going to do moving forward is that future expansions to Destiny will be much smaller, similar to something like Shadowkeep, where, you might have a new location and a little bit of a story, but, it's not going to be some insanely incredible thing. I don't know what this means for the future of Destiny, as to whether things will start winding down, or if, I don't know. It's really hard to tell. I don't know if there's more story to be told or if this is going to affect some of the content that they've already promised for this year, if some of that's going to have to, switch plans from their episodic plan to now this two small expansions a year. They'll move away from the more larger expansions, which are once a year. So I don't know. I just don't know how this is going to affect Bungie going forward, having lost. I mean, they even lost the people that did the music. I mean, Michael Salvatore was key to the Destiny music. So, I mean, I don't know what they're doing with trimming the fat here. I'm not sure if it was a good idea for Sony to buy Bungie. Bungie did really well being independent, but I also see here that it's possible that some of the leadership or whoever's in charge here of making some of these boneheaded decisions that we're talking about tonight is that they're not really focusing about their main flagship game, Destiny, and how to make it more effective and how to make sure that they're putting out the best product so that people want to spend their money on it. I think another critique that's come out is that they've said that they are upset with the fact that the Destiny's main player base is skewing older. It's people in their 30s and 40s and stuff. And it's like, well, what do you expect? It's not a children's game. If you want to play Destiny, if you want to buy the costumes and the guns and all the cosmetic features, you have to have money. If you want to buy the expansions, you have to have money. The game may have gone free to play, but that only gets you so far, And it does get you a decent way. But I mean, if you want to afford and play through all the various expansions that have been there over the years, I mean, I've bought and played every single one, and thankfully, big shout out to Bungie that they actually sent a code for me to cover the final shape and all the episodic content that's on the way for the rest of the year. I still have more to dig into on that, but I mean, it's pretty awesome that they recognize that I've been making content around their game for the past 10 years or more. So hard to say whether it was a good idea or not. I think Bungie was great under Microsoft, but I don't think things were great under Activision. The game was overly monetized, and the good stuff was hidden behind the Eververse store. I think things shifted when Bungie was independent, but obviously it seems like they probably made some financial... maybe they grew the studio too big. Maybe there's all sorts of other issues. Who's to say what it is? But I think them being bought by Sony and that essentially leading into more layoffs and shutdowns of various, it just feels like they're shutting down life support in some areas. And that may be a little over dramatic, but, we'll have to see how Final Shape wraps up with all its stuff and how Marathon does. And, Bungie was also meant to sort of pitch in. They're the ones who told the Last of Us developer Naughty Dog what the consequences would be if they were going to make a live service game. They said, hey, you're not ready for this. Like, you'll never make a single player again after this. Like, you are going to be dedicated to this live service factions mode or whatever you're going to call it for The Last of Us. Here's what it's going to take, and I think that helped talk them out of it. And I think they're also going to be sort of a team that's going to work with Sony on probably Concord and whatever live service games that they have on the way. It wouldn't be surprising to see Bungie step in and help there. But it's not looking good if they're having to lay off a lot of people and, if there's mismanagement in the leadership of the studio. So, scary times ahead. I'll definitely have to see if we can have a conversation with Andrew at some point this week. I think our schedules have just been a little wonky back and forth. My availability, his availability has been back and forth. But I know me and him, Andrew Alliance, like to have our talks about Destiny, and we have a lot of moments where we play that game together. So it's been a good time playing that. So they have stated that Codename Payback was canceled and that Destiny 3 was never planned. It's not that they would never do Destiny 3, it's just that they weren't actively working on that. And I think that's a good thing because, I mean, I think Final Shape needed to land, and I think Destiny just needs to be a game. It doesn't need to be a game that has sequel. because you lose the raids, you lose the strikes, you lose the Crucible matches. Every time you make a new game, it's like everything in the past gets tied to those older games, and when servers get shut down, those are gone forever. So I think you need a way like World of Warcraft where you have the experience all under one roof, and I wouldn't be opposed to a Destiny 3 someday, to sort of serve as like a, hey, we're going to raise up the graphics, we're going to raise the roof on, how much content is in the game, we're going to bring everything from the past and bring that forward and put it in there. Yeah. Oh, dude, that's so awesome. I have all the, most of the special editions and collector's editions of all those, and I've been very tempted to do like a sort of a retro playthrough of the original Destiny, because a lot of my coverage was on the Xbox One back in the day, but I did pick it up on PS4 a while back, and I was like, how cool would it be if we just like kick back and played Destiny 1 from the start on PS4, brand new account, like no nothing, none of my favorite guns, just like start fresh and see how it goes, because pretty much on the Xbox One, my vault is full. I have all the guns. I mean, not all the guns, but I have a lot of the guns. I definitely soaked my life in, especially into Destiny 1 and thousands of hours into Destiny 2 as well. So, yeah, Taken King was dope. Great expansion. I mean, it's sad to see people that I knew that put out expansions like the Taken King, Luke Smith, and Mark Noseworthy, no longer being at Bungie after this. It's sad. It's scary. The best way I can spin this is that Bungie will never be the same. Now, we can either take that in an optimistic way, in that Bungie will never be the same. It has a chance to potentially evolve and become something greater, right? Or that Bungie will never be the same, and this could be the downfall of the studio, of Destiny. I don't want to get all gloom and doom. I don't think things will go that way, but, certainly laying off a substantial portion of your workforce could be a bad thing. So, I mean, that's all I really have to talk about today. This has been Shackcast episode 56. We've been doing episodes live recently. It's been really fun to sort of have the back and forth and thoughts on all the news and the games and all this pop culture stuff that we've been talking about recently. Thoughts on the new Black Ops game. I can give you like a little bit of a synopsis. I think it looks interesting. I think the optimization of the movement system is really cool. Everything that I've seen, especially from the Xbox showcase, I think them giving us that extra glimpse into Black Ops, the campaign, all that stuff. I need to actually check out Black Ops Cold War. I think I need to play that before this new game comes out. So we might have to do that pretty soon on the channel, maybe a quick run through of the campaign, because it was inconvenient. Cold War came out and I just didn't have time for it. I was very excited for it. It looked awesome. But I want to play that because I think some of the characters are going to be in the new Black Ops 6, which I think it's really cool. They're kind of playing with this like Cold War, and there's like, some presidents from the 90s are being referenced here. And we're sort of talking about, the Desert Storm era of things. So it's not one of the most popular areas that video games have been in for a long time. So I think it should be really cool. I'm actually keen to see it. I'm more of a Modern Warfare guy. I really enjoy those characters, that world, the modern weapons. But honestly, if Black Ops is taking place in the 90s, like I could dig the weapons, the pop culture, the world, the technological limitations of the time, of not having like ridiculous drone technology and stuff like that, futuristic, ridiculous tech, could be kind of neat. And I'm also very excited for the new Delta Force Hawk Ops. I think the PC I forget if it's alpha or beta. I think it might be alpha codes that are going out right now. Let me double check. Yeah, it's an alpha test. I don't believe I have a code, so I don't think I'll be doing any coverage on it unless something changes. But I did apply, and we'll just see. I don't know. But yeah, I'm very excited about it. I don't know if it'll be for me, but I will certainly try and hopefully enjoy the new Black Ops game. So, once again, I want to thank you all for watching. This has been Shackcast episode 56. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. If you're listening, we can be found on all podcast outlets. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos, live streams, podcast episodes, etc. This has been episode 56 live, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.